I'm very happy to have the honor to introduce my good friend Fred Hooks. Fred Hooks was born in Thatcher, Arizona. Spencer W. Kimball was his stake president. Also the prophet when he was called to be stake president. He attended USC Dental School, graduating, I believe, in 1956. He married at the beginning of 1957. The reason I remember this date is because Karen and Fred and Bonnie and I have celebrated anniversaries many, many years together because we were married the day after they were in different temples. But that was a common thread in our lives that seemed, among others, to hold us together for many, many years. Our children were approximately the same age and we lived in the same neighborhood, so naturally we had built very strong family ties, taking many vacations together and children sharing school experiences together. And all in all, it's been a wonderful experience. As I think back and dig through the cobwebs of my memory, I can't think of a single unpleasant circumstance that we've ever had. Fred and Karen and their little daughter Gretchen moved into the Redondo First Ward in 1959, about the same time this stake was created. A couple of years later, he was called into the bishopric to be a counselor to Bishop Cox. A few years later, he was called to be stake young men's president, working with one of his best friends, who happens to be my wife. And most of us know the story. He was called to be a counselor to Bishop Parrish in approximately 1976, and then he became bishop himself of the Redondo First Ward in 1980. In 1984, Carl Bachman of the 70s came in and reorganized the stake presidency. President Hymas and his counselors were released, and a new stake presidency was put in October of 1984. Lael Henderson was his first counselor. Robert Cummings was his second counselor. They served for a few years, and then Lael was released because he was getting ready to move. Henry Mottley came in as second counselor, and President Cummings was moved from second to first. About 2 years later, in 1989, I had the privilege of being called to be a second counselor, and President Henry Mottley moved to the position of first counselor, and we remained that way until he was released in 1993. I served as counselor to President Hooks, both in the bishopric and in the stake presidency. And in all the years I've known him, he has always been kind and just. If I could give one word that described him, I would say peacemaker. I had to be very careful as a counselor in advising President Hooks because 99% of the time he would take my advice. So I had to be sure that my advice was sound. I remember one time, it was in December of one year, we were discussing along with the stake executive secretary how we might spend the surplus that we had in the stake budget. President Hooks turned to me and asked my opinion. I said, I don't think we should spend the Lord's money for anything but necessary things. And needless to say, we did not spend our surplus budget that year. The events that took place during the administration of President Hooks were, we received the new Green Songbook, which is the first songbook that, first new songbook that most of us had even been aware of, because it was 37 years since the previous songbook had been issued. In 1986, the church reached the milestone of 6 million members. Since then, it has more than doubled from that figure. 1987, the Genealogical Committee of the Church formed what is called the International Geological IGI. Everybody calls it the IGI, so I don't even know what the second I. International Geological Index. Did I get that right? Which greatly improved greatly speeded up the temple work. President Kimball and Benson presided during his administration. In 1989, the Jerusalem Center was dedicated. People like David Spencer in the back remembers that. And my grandson just got back from there, a semester abroad, studying at the Jerusalem Center, which is a division of Brigham Young University. One of the things that some of the older folks remember is the discontinuation of the budget. You might remember that we used to have welfare, building fund, ward budget that we were expected to pay into in addition to our tithing and fast offering. Because of the faithfulness of the tithing in the church, the increase in the faithfulness of tithing, they were able to get rid of the budget. You didn't realize you had that much influence, did you, President? Some of the world events that happened during this time were the riots and earthquakes in the city that we sometimes remember. One of the notable things that President Hooks accomplished was the building and completion of the Carson building from the groundbreaking in 1988 to the finished product in 1991. It was the first of its kind in the church that could house up to 8 wards. We never did have that many in there. The reason the church went to this type of construction is because of the cost of land in Southern California. And they felt that if they could build larger buildings that would house more units, they could save money by not having to buy so much raw land on which to build them. He also presided over the complete refurbishing of this building in which we are at this time. And some of you, the wards in this building may remember having to find a temporary place for our meetings during that period. Some in the old building on Cabrillo, and some in the Redondo Second Ward, and some in the Carson Ward. We all remember that. So, but the thing I remember about President Hooks was not his administrative abilities, it was the kindness. I remember one thing Karen, his wife, said at the occasion where he was installed as state president. You'll probably remember this, Karen. Fred is a good man. Fred has always been a good man. I don't think there's a time in his life that he has strayed significantly from the path of righteousness. And if I could make a deal with our Heavenly Father right now, I would, and he could say, you could either enter heaven on your own merits or grab the coattails of Fred Hooks. I would grab the coattails right away. Of course, that's not going to happen. I'm going to have to earn my way in there. Later on, you're going to hear from Fred and Karen, and they're going to render a musical number. But let me just express my great love and appreciation for President and Sister Hooks. They are more than friends.